All right, joining us now here on In the Circle, she is the fifth head coach all time at Fresno State. Of course, was a great player at Iowa, three-time All Big Ten performer at Iowa, playing under legendary head coach Gayle Blevins, and of course, NPF champion, of course, NPF MVP. Great career in the NPF, as well as obviously he's played internationally. Speaking of Stacy May Johnson, joins us. Coach, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Well, what's it been like here in the last week since you were named head coach at Fresno State? It's had to be kind of a wild time for you.
It's been a whirlwind. From the moment it was announced, I feel like I've been on the phone the whole time. But I'm excited to get going. So it's been great. We've been going to work from the moment it was announced, and I couldn't be more thrilled.
Take us through this process and how it ended up there with you at Fresno State, obviously coming over from Utah Valley. Your name has been on the rise. A lot of people, you always talk about you when jobs open up because it speaks to the compliment, the work you've done as an assistant and as a head coach here recently. Just talk about the process here, how you ended up at Fresno.
I think I'd be remiss if I didn't tell you that I've been surrounded by really good people. We had really good student athletes at Utah Valley, and they showed up. And they turned that program around. I always told them, I said, listen, guys, I'm going to get a little bit of credit for this, but I have to tell you, I think it's you guys. You guys are the ones that are out there pitching the ball, hitting the ball, throwing the ball. I'm just maybe giving you a little bit of direction and some leadership and showing you which way to go. But, you guys have to step up and do it. And so, great student athletes, really awesome assistant coaches, and those people, they make the thing go, and they have the potential to tear it down too. And so I think that I couldn't give more credit to those people.
Take us through when you got to the Fresno campus. When did you feel like this is the right job for me?
Yeah, it kind of feels like home. The Valley feels like home a little bit. It's not. It doesn't feel quite like San Francisco. It doesn't feel quite like LA. It's got a little bit more of this small town community feel, and I love that. I was walking through the grocery store yesterday, and lady walks up to me. She didn't introduce herself. She just said, "Hey, welcome to Fresno, Coach." I said, "Thank you. Excited to be here." And that's how the life is here, And I'm excited to represent this community. This is a fabulous softball community. Tremendous support in this area, and I am excited to be the leader.
Tremendous support, tremendous history in the game, as you know, has been a part of it for a long time. How much was that attracted you to? This is a brand here that people know when it comes to college softball.
Oh, huge attraction for sure. I mean, you go back the World Series, the national championship, Margie Wright, and all the greats that came before. Man, this is a rare and unique opportunity. And so when Fresno State comes calling, it's hard to say no.
Now, normally when a coach takes over a program, that maybe they got to kind of teach them how to win and maybe they kind of build it up. You got a case here where the cover's not bare at all. You got a team that's coming off winning a conference championship led by a pitcher that's one of the best in the country. That's not a bad spot to start with.
Yeah, we're so thrilled to have Haley back, and and Ahi, she's big time, so we've got some tremendous talent. That's just a couple. I tell you, we've got some good young talent that I think you guys are going to be excited to see over the next few years. But, we want to get in here and continue to build off of what's already here. And that's the beauty of this job, right? Is like you said, you don't have to rebuild the thing. You get to stand on other people's shoulders and work to improve the job that they've already done. So, I don't see this as like, oh, I'm going to come in and change everything. No, we're going to bring our style to it. All right, we're going to give it some direction for sure. But no, this is a great program right now, and I'm excited to just stand on those shoulders.
What was it like when you spoke to the team once you were hired? What was that like? Because obviously part of this process here is you get to learn them, and they got to learn you here.
Yeah, so they've got great energy. You can feel the energy. They are excited about being a part of a program in the Valley. They know what attendance is like here. We average over 1,000 a game. Maybe not in a COVID year, but we average a lot of people. Again, the community support, and it just gets them so excited the potential here. So their energy is awesome. I can feel their positive attitudes. And that's exactly what we need. We need positive energy, positive attitudes. You can't win on talent alone. You've got to work as a team. And I think they've got what it takes.
You mentioned, I mean, you got Haley Docene is one of the best pitchers in the country, a team that's loaded, won the conference. It's been a program that's used to being in the NCAA tournament. How do you figure out, okay, we need to tweak this to get better, but at the same time, there's some things here, as you mentioned, that has been working as far as personnel and things like that. How is that process going to be like for you to kind of figure out, all right, this is what we need to tweak, but this is something that actually might still work and we can still keep this?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the starting point is right where they left off. That's exactly where you start. You don't go in and wholesale something that's as good as this. So we start right where they left off, and then we take a look at it. If somebody's not getting the hits or somebody's not making the plays, then we're going to try to make that a little bit better. Whether it be work with that individual or make a change, I don't know. We've got to cross that bridge when we get there. But again, day one is picking up right where they left off.
Playing a great league, the Mountain West Conference, very competitive league, great teams, programs. So how much that also attract you, get you excited? This is a league that's been a multiple bid league over the years and has great coaches in the league as well.
Yeah, that's right. And I think one thing you look at as a coach is how does your schedule prepare you for the postseason? And that's one of the things I like about the Mountain West. I think it prepares you for the postseason. I think you're going to face good, stiff competition. You're going to face it at home. You're going to face it on the road. And so it's important to have that sort of preparation.
It's also got great players that are head coaches in this league. Yourself, you got Stacy Newman over at San Diego State, Christy Fox at UNLV, just to name a few. I mean, that's a pretty competitive coaching field there, on and off the field there, Coach.
Yeah, that's right. I love to see those women coming up. Obviously, they were great players, and they're really bright softball minds too. And so it's really cool to see these women that. Stacy Newman, I watched her, and then Christy Fox, I played with her, and it's really cool to see these women rise up and kind of get these top tier jobs here in Division I world.
What did it mean to you when you were named head coach once it was announced? Social media exploded in a positive way. A lot of peers of yours congratulating you, a lot of people in general. You're one of the most well-respected people in the sport. What does that mean to you when people are coming out and saying, oh, wow, that's a great move, things like that?
I just grateful, just grateful for that support. I don't know that you think about that sort of thing when you get up and you go to work every day. You just get up and go to work. You just do what you're supposed to do. You work hard, you try hard, you do your best. You figure out a way to win. You figure out how to treat people right. You just try to do things the best way you know how. All those things are important to me. And so I guess I'm just grateful that was, the overwhelming response. I don't know what else to say, because to me, I'm just getting up and going to work every day.
Let's talk about your journey to coaching, because it's been a fascinating. You paid your dues, as most coaches have to do. You got to move around from place to land where you get. Was being a head coach always the goal? Did you ever have doubts whether you'd be a head coach? What made you decide to get into coaching? Because you had a tremendous playing career.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was always the goal. It needed to be in the right time for my family and obviously for my playing career as well. But that was always the goal. I love the game. I love the leadership component to it. I love being able to impact young women and hopefully send their life, help send them off in a positive trajectory, academically, personally, softball wise, all that stuff. And so, yeah, I think this was always what I wanted. You don't always know how it's going to turn out, how it's going to look, but I knew that this is what I wanted.
Well, your career, obviously college career, began at Iowa, which is fascinating. This is something I've always wanted to ask you, because I've heard about you following the Iowa program. Your name is all over the record books, #1 over there. And you get brought up a lot because you're one of the greats ever there. But you're a West Coast girl. You were from Reno, Nevada. How did you end up at Iowa and ending up playing for Coach Blevins?
Well, I mean, she's a legend, she's retired now, but she's a legend for sure. And so that was appealing to me, when I signed my letter of intent, Iowa had been to the World Series 4 of the previous 8 years. And I'd be lying to you if I told you that wasn't a factor. It was. So I knew I was going to be playing for a great coach. I knew that I was going to be playing for a very competitive program. And I liked their energy. I liked their dynamic, a blue collar type thing. And Coach Blevins told me, she said, when she recruited me, she's like, just so you know, we were the least talented of the 8 teams at the World Series, just so you know. I said, okay, coach. And I kind of like that. There's something about that I like. Hey, we're good enough to make it to the World Series. We're not more talented, but we're going to beat them anyway. And I love that.
What was it about Coach Blevins? What was it like playing for Coach Blevins? Do you remember the first time you met her? What is she like? Because I've talked to Coach Gillespie, who's the current head coach at Iowa, and she looks up to Coach Blevins. That was a big reason why she went to Iowa. What stands out? What makes her so, a legend in the sport and so successful?
Well, she's intense, as most coaches are. She's really intense, but she's also a pioneer. I think she did things and said things in a time where it wasn't fun, it wasn't popular. She coached softball in a time where maybe it wasn't the best career track out there, but she did it because she loved it, and she did it well her entire career. And did with a lot of pride, and the community. And again, University of Iowa's got a lot of the same feel that Fresno State does. Everybody in that state, it feels like, is a Hawkeye, right?
Yes.
And everybody in the Valley feels like a Bulldog, So there's a lot of that same thing going on here. And Coach Blevins, she just did it with such grace, such intensity, and a lot of success.
You just stole my thunder. I was going to ask you about the comparisons there, because you're right. There's that tradition internally. There's that pride where they live and breathe with it, this program. And you sense that, obviously, as you went through this with Fresno State. You saw some similarities with Iowa.
Yeah, I sure did. And that's where you want to be. You want to be in a place where the university is the only show in town, where the local kids, they grow up, the local girls come up through your softball camps, and they've all got red t-shirts growing up, and then when they're 40 years old and they've got kids of their own, they bring them out to the games, because it's a part of their family, it's a part of their tradition, and that's exactly where I wanted to be, was in a community like that.
You stick around with Coach Blevins. Your first coaching job was with her in 2007 after your playing career as an undergraduate coach. Take us through that. How did that come about? Was it her idea? You kind of came up to her? Because that was a big moment. It turns out that would be a big moment for you from a coaching career standpoint.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. So I had another year to finish up my degree. And I said, what do you think, Coach? She said, I'll support you in that. And I said, what do you think? Do you mind if I stay on as a student assistant? And she said, sure. And so that year I do what you do when you're an assistant. You observe, you pick up balls, you throw front toss, you do whatever coach asks you to do. But I was just thrilled to be a part of the team that year and get to see a little bit more on the coaching side, learn a little bit more on her side.
What are some of the things you learned from her that you maybe picked up that you use now in your coaching?
Yeah, so Coach Blevins is a powerful motivator. She knows how to captivate an audience, and I think we all felt that power. As student athletes, we felt it. And as I got a little bit older, I started to maybe pay attention a little bit more on how exactly is she doing this? How do you captivate an audience? How do you motivate? How do you lead? And so, yeah, I took some of those same things, and I implemented them into my own style.
After that, you kind of started making the rounds. You went to Louisville as a volunteer. You came back to Iowa as a coach. At the same time, you're playing professionally. Not only playing professionally, you're playing at the highest level in the NPF, and you're playing at the highest level of your game. You're an all NPF player, MVP in the league. You're winning NPF championships. What was that like as you're trying to find yourself as a coach and in the industry, but at the same time, you're still playing it? You're playing at the highest level, and you're trying to balance both at the same time.
I think it kept me connected to the student athletes in a way that was very valuable. I could come back during the school year and say, I know what it's like to be in a slump. It's not fun. I know what it's like to show up every morning at 6 a.m. It's a grind. And so I think it made me very relatable as a coach. And I think it's given me an ear to understand, what the student athletes are going through and to be able to coach them effectively, not just as athletes, but as humans, and that's a big piece for me is buy-in. And when you can start to connect with your athletes on a human level, it makes you a much more effective coach.
You played for the Chicago Bandits, which I think is the pro level version of a Fresno State, Iowa, from the standpoint they got loyal fans, passionate. Everybody that's played for the Bandits has said that. What was that time like? And you played with some of the greats, Jenny Finch, Monica Abbott, just to name a few among others. Did that also help you now where you got to from a coaching standpoint, being around great players, but being around that support among softball fans as well?
Oh yeah, no, for sure. I could talk about my days in the pro league for a long time, but what came out of those years, I think I think it defined me. Um, as a person. And I think what defines me as a person also defines me as a coach. I went into that league undersized, not enough power, a little too slow. There's a lot of reasons physically why I wasn't supposed to succeed. I could put a bat on a ball for sure, but there were a lot of things I was lacking. And so, in that league, the quality of pitching that you see, you see an All-American every night. Oh yeah, she was an All-American. Oh yeah, she was an All-American. Everybody's an All-American. And so in that league, you either sink or swim. But I fought, I competed, I worked, and I got better, and I got better, and I got better. And I really hit my stride in my mid to late 20s. And that's a great perspective for me as a coach. To see my path, to know that not everybody is going to be physically this or that. And yet there's this human element to all of us, the part that you can't quantify. And it makes all the difference in the world. It's great perspective as a coach.
No doubt. It probably helps you in recruiting, right? Like it's like, hey, does this person have those intangibles? Is this player willing to work? Can I, and development in players. We kind of forget that in times in college game, everybody just assumes you're ready to go from your first year, but that's not the case. Sometimes it takes a while to adjust. And as a coach, you have to be patient and work with that player, right?
Oh, absolutely. In all facets, but especially when it comes to hitting, hitting is a skill, an acquired skill. Your most talented hitters at 18 years old, if they continue to play on, they won't hit their best years probably for 10 to 15 years. I mean, if you go in and look at Major League Baseball, I mean, the best hitters are not 23. I can tell you that. And so, yeah, you keep that perspective that many of the young women that walk in the door, they're not going to be the same player when they walk out at 22.
I've talked to many people. It's difficult to balance a playing career and coaching at the same time. Did you have struggles with that? At times, did you wonder maybe I should give up the coaching side of things and just focus on playing, or vice versa? Should I consider giving up playing and going into coaching, which a lot of players have had to do, unfortunately? What was that time period like for you?
Well, I have a very, very supportive husband, and I have awesome kids. And so none of this happens without them. And that's really what makes it go. Because for me, it's like, well, yeah, I want to play. Well, yeah, I want to coach. Let's go. Let's do this. I've always wanted those things, but it's had to have been the right fit. And so really what it comes down to is my husband and I sitting down and saying, hey, is this a good idea? And if he says, yeah, you've got my blessing. All right, let's go.
And blessing indeed. You went to, like I said, Louisville and Purdue and Eastern Kentucky. You were assistants there. How did those stops help you get to eventually that head coaching job at Utah Valley and now at Fresno State? Describe those experiences as an assistant in different paths, because that's really the life of a college coach, is moving from the next job and learning different things.
Yeah, each stop taught me something different, both good and bad. Hey, I'm going to do that. Hey, I'm not going to do that. Each stop you learn something. And so we molded and shaped our philosophy every single year. Every year we went somewhere, we molded and shaped everything we did. And then we get to Utah Valley, and it was really a culmination of each of those stops. I couldn't express the value in working for and with different people. Each stop was a valuable part of the experience that ended up being sort of this melting pot of ideas that created the product that we put out today. And I think I'll say in 10 years, man, like I've learned so much over the last 10 years, and the ideas will change and they'll morph, and we're always changing and growing because our world is changing and growing around us. We better change with it.
Tell me about Utah Valley when you saw that. What was it about that spot that you felt this was the best time for me to be my first head coaching job?
Yeah, I saw the potential in it. I think Utah Valley has tremendous potential. I thought, maybe other people look at this and say, yeah, this doesn't have this or it doesn't have that. But I looked at it and I said, you can win there. And I believe that. And then I got there, and to see the level of student athletes on campus there, I thought, wow, this is a great setup. And, and that's exactly what it was. We had very talented student athletes, certainly more than what I expected. And they really, they came to play every day, positive energy, positive attitudes. And they shaped that program in a direction that I'm very proud of.
How important is it to relate to the players now? Because obviously the game's different now than it was, say, when you played. There's so many different variables. There's a coach now you have to deal with. The recruiting is obviously even more competitive now because it's nationwide. It's not, you can't just depend regionally for the most part. Everybody, the game is more popular, so forth. But yet I feel like the game has changed from a coach and player relationship where, you got to make sure the players buy into what you have. Describe that and the advantages you have as being on both sides, having been a player and a coach.
Yeah, I don't think I could overstate the importance of the relational element. Connecting with people on a human level. Listening to them and hearing like, hey, we tried this and that didn't feel quite right. I want to try. Okay, let's give it a go. And they get a voice too. And I think that they do have to listen to me. Like I do expect them to listen to me, but I think they're pleasantly surprised to find out that I listen to them too. And we work as a partnership. We talk about a pitcher and a catcher. That's a partnership. Okay. We talk about a pitcher and a defense. That's a partnership. You can't score a run from second if somebody doesn't get a hit. That's a partnership too. So, I don't see the coach-student athlete relationship any different. This is a partnership. We are working together to make you the best version of you. And that's how we create a great team.
How would Coach Johnson get along with Stacy May, the player? If you two were like the player and the coach was in the same room, would you all get along? Would you coach her well? How would that go?
I think that I would look at her and I'd say, you got a couple things to learn. I think I was a good kid when I was 18, but I did have a few things to learn. And I'd like to think that, even though I didn't come in the door perfect, that I was overall a good kid. And if you told me how it was, I was going to hear you, and it might take a minute for me to get it, but that I'd get there. That's what I think.
That's pretty good. How much does your playing career come up when you're recruiting a kid today? Do they bring it up? Do you have to bring it up? How does that conversation go?
This isn't about me. I don't really bring it up. If they want to bring it up, then that's great. If I think that they need to know that I played at a high level, that's where I'll leave it. I say, listen, I played at a high level. I know what it takes. That's where we leave it, because this really isn't about me.
That said, it's a pretty good resume to bring up. I mean, to win an MVP in that league, like you did a couple times, this is the best players in the world, the who's who. There's a couple of them that are still playing in the U.S. Olympic team now that's going to be playing in Japan. What was that like to play against the best players in the world? You're facing the Cat Ostermans, the Monica Abbots, and you're performing at the highest level. Did you ever dream of that? What was that like to be a part of that, where you're right there as the best player in the world at some point there? And we'll get into your international career.
It was surreal. I'll tell you a story that'll kind of give you an inside look into my head at that time. I just kept playing, and I probably just started getting better and better. And that's really what happened throughout my 20s. And, I was married at the time. My husband, after one game, he said, there's all these Olympians in the league. And he's like, I'm watching these games, and he's like, I think you're as good as they are. And I was like, no, I'm not, and so I just said, no, I'm not. I'm not as good as they are. I don't know. I just went out and competed, and I loved it. I played with passion. I never did it with ulterior motives. It was very pure for me. And so I think that's probably what made it so special. Maybe in hindsight, I did some things well, but I still don't quite see myself on that level. Maybe other people do. I don't know, but I just don't see it that way.
But your success kind of helped you because you got to play with Team USA a little bit. What was that experience like to be a part of Team USA for a few years? You were among their best players on that team for the time you were there.
Oh, it was the coolest. It was just the coolest. The thing that's special about USA is just putting on that jersey, who you represent, and everybody, it's just not just, it's USA, but it's your hometown. it's your university, University of Iowa community and fans rallied around that. It was their victory too. It was my hometown victory. It was my high school victory. It was all of that. It was representative of a lot of people.
And you played there at a time where it was no Olympics in the rear view. There was like, hey, the Olympics are around the corner. There was no. You still committed to it, and you helped kind of build the building blocks, because that was right at the time where a lot of the Olympians had retired or moved on from Team USA. But you kind of helped start back up Team USA and help that building blocks to the point where they're at now. What was that like, being a part of that, where you helped them kind of rebuild it back?
Yeah, I look back on that time, and I think that my honest role was, I was about 5 years older than the average age on that team. And so my role was really to provide leadership. It was to show our young women, what does this look like? What does it look like to be a professional? There were so many young, talented players in the organization at that time, but they had never really been professionals yet. And so I was really honored to have a chance to play a role on that team. And many of those young women are going to be playing in Tokyo this summer. And so, for me, I got to be a part of their journey. I got to be a part of the program's journey, and I'm proud of that.
Yeah, Ken Erickson, I believe, was the head coach at that time, taking over from Mike Condrea. And he's mentioned that early period was so critical, because it could have been easy for everybody to just say, no, there's no Olympics in it, so why am I going to bother? But you mentioned it. There are players that are going to be a part of that Team USA that was part of the early goings, like a Michelle Moultrie, right? Valerie Arioto joined in there after her career at Cal, among others. And what's that going to be like for you when you see those players representing and the softball back in the Olympics here in Japan? What's that going to be like for you?
Oh, that's going to be awesome. If I'm not recruiting, I'm not missing a game. But I'm proud of those girls, and they're friends. I consider them friends, and I love running into them and talking to them here and there. And so it's just, I'm just excited for those girls and what this means for them and for their careers, and what it means for our country.
For Fresno State fans that maybe haven't seen your team play, describe what's your style as a coach, and what type of team when people see your team on the field come this season and in future years at Fresno State, what's a Stacy May Johnson team going to look like?
Hey, well, we're going to play hard. We're going to play hard. That's the first thing that I want people to notice. We're aggressive. We're aggressive on the bases. We're going to go for it. We're going to, and I tell the team as the outfielders, like, listen, guys, if we lose this game, we're going to lose this game diving for a ball. And we're not going to play not to lose. We're going to play aggressive. We're going to play to win. But we're going to keep our emotions in check. The best players in the world, the best teams in the world, they know how to handle those emotions. They know how to handle the big moment. And so that's something we're going to work to develop here over this next year.
It's going to be really exciting. Take us through now. I know you're going to work on trying to get your staff together, recruiting. Obviously, everybody's excited because you get to recruit in person again after a year off. But just take us through this process here. You get to know the players. They get to know you. You build the staff. What are some of the keys between now and February that you have to do and accomplish to be ready for the upcoming season and compete for the Mountain West Championship? Because, as you know, the standards are high at Fresno State. It's about winning a conference championship and making the NCAAs. There's expectations that come with it.
Yeah, that's right. I think the key is trust. Okay. The key is going to be trust amongst our staff. The key is going to be trust with the team amongst each other, and then the two entities together. Again, I mentioned a partnership. This is going to be a partnership, and that's what we're going to work hardest to build. Yes, we're going to practice softball. Surely we're going to take some ground balls and some batting practice. We're going to do those things, but this fall is about building trust, understanding who we are as a unit, and working to grow that unit as strong as we can.
That is head coach Stacy May Johnson, head coach at Fresno State. Sounds good, coach. That's a good title. It's really, really a nice title, and I know a lot of people are excited to hear that. Congratulations once again. I know it's a busy time, but thanks so much for taking the time. And again, congratulations. I know you got a lot of fans that are excited for you. They're going to be watching you very closely over there at Fresno State.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to get going.